Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about.
You all ready for this?
This is a sham.
No.
Y'all, just stop.
Get real.
Welcome to DBL. Hello, gentlemen.
All right, you're starting earlier and earlier. Rob hadn't even started walking towards us and you're yelling.
I'm sorry. Behind the scenes, I've been having a strong argument with our executive producer, and things are heated, and we like it. We'll get to that story in a minute, but we are starting today with Florida, where, of course, Hurricane Idalia made landfall this morning as a Category 3 storm with top sustained winds of 125 miles per hour. Officials are warning residents of devastating storm surge. More than half of Florida's western coastline is at risk. Al, I'm sure you know all about that. More than 200,000 customers have already lost power, and authorities say parts of the state may be uninhabitable for days. Al, that was your hometown for a long time. How do you feel?
It's sad, but it's not shocking. I went through a ton of hurricanes, and just like the West Coast, that's like Sarasota and all that. So I remember doing a charity event for Hurricane Charlie 10, 15 years ago that devastated like Port Charlotte and Fort Myers, and that it devastated it for years. So I just, like I say all the time, just please pray, because it's bad and it's a long recovery.
Yeah, please listen to authorities on that, and we pray as well. We want to move on to this. It's a question for you. It's going to sound a little drastic, but we're going to ask. Is the American dream dead? Well, a new survey of small business owners is out, and it is confirming what a lot of folks have been saying. You know, the old American dream of getting a good career, working hard, owning a home, and building up some wealth, that's no longer attainable. Instead, the American dream is being replaced with something. So what is the new American dream? According to this survey, 56% of people said it's to live comfortably with a certain level of financial security. 54% say to feel happy in life, and 49% say it involves the freedom to follow your passions. This is something a lot of people have been talking about, including a mom who's gone viral. Here's what she had to say about it. Take a look.
I thought by teaching them what I learned, which is you work hard, you get a good job, you're going to get the things in life that you need, right? Worked for me. Why wouldn't it work for them? Because it doesn't. Because the world has changed, all right? And now I feel like I see them struggling. And before my generation comes at me, yes, I understand struggling is a part of life. We all struggled. But there's a difference between struggling and drowning.
So what do we think, DBL Nation? Is the American dream dead? Go to dblvote.com to weigh in while we have this discussion. Jeffrey, is it dead?
It depends what your dream of America is, or whatever.
Starting off strong.
Yeah. I don't know where I was going with that. I'm going the opposite way with this. Whatever that woman said, I'm sure 80% of the people agree. They like it. They clicked a little heart on what she said. I don't.
Tell me why.
I'll tell you why. Because you could do whatever you want in this country. Go travel outside of this country and go see how many limitations you have. You'll find out what real limitations are. You'll find out what real racism is. You'll find out what real women that struggle. You'll find that struggle. You'll find what real poorness is. How little money people have around the country. You have every opportunity at your fingertips. And listen, this is my dream. You could build whatever you want. If you want something more, if you want a bigger house, you got to go get it. If you want more money, you got to go get it. If you're willing to wake up earlier, outwork the person next to you, everyone's got that mentality. It makes it easier for you to get what you want. I'm not saying I don't make excuses. I'm not saying I didn't get up early this morning and make an excuse why I didn't work out. I put obstacles in my way too. But if you really dedicate yourself, not like, hey, 50% I'm going to do this and the other half I'm going to go drinking with my friends.
Right.
If you want to commit to yourself, this is what I want, and I want the best for my kids, you could go and get it in this country. But if you want to put limitations on that, you could do that as well. Whether you think you're right or you think you're wrong, you're right. I forgot how that went.
Worried halfway through that?
Yeah.
Al, do you agree? Disagree?
I've done that on stage before where I started a joke and I'm like, I don't know how this ends.
I
forgot how it ended.
Yeah.
I knew, I was like, oh, this is going to be a good closer. But I didn't start off strong, didn't close well.
No, but I'm done.
You're out. Al, do you agree? Disagree?
I agree with what Jeff is saying, especially for somebody like Jeff. Jeff is there's a decent amount of people that are just driven and will not take no for an answer, and 99 knows. He's waiting, very optimistic about the next opportunity. I think when we're talking about the American dream in general, it was kind of what we were taught. If you do these certain things, this is what you can expect. There was a period of financial boom, basically.
The security, post-World War.
Post-World War. everybody, could live on a single income, be expected to have a nice house and be able to send your kids to college and live in a safe area. And I think now the concern that you heard from that mother is she was raised by the parents that were raised in that prosperity, and she wants to take the lessons that she got from her parents to tell to her kids, but everything she's told them has come up empty.
Right.
Because college is 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 times more than it was. To buy a car, to buy a home. Now when somebody buys a house, it's not where did you move, it's how did you do that?
Great
and I
point.
think that's the difference is, yes, be driven, but it just seems inequitable. It seems inequitable where somebody can work super hard for 20 years and some 20-year-old can roll out of bed, get a good tip on Bitcoin, and he has $28 million. It just doesn't seem fair. And not that everything has to be completely fair, but the way the system works out, the punishments for people, it just doesn't seem fair. And I think that's what she was saying. That's what I feel. But I do embrace the work
And
hard.
I totally agree with you. Inflation's out of control. House prices are out of control.
We were talking about it yesterday.
Yeah, I know, it is. I mean, for even us. But there's got to be a change in mentality. You know what I mean? Instead of saying we can't with everything we do in our life, you have to say I can. It's just going to take some work. It's going to take failure. We don't let anybody fail anymore. Right. If you say one thing wrong in 6th grade, that's going to be on your college administration. Remember in 6th grade, did you say something racist? You can't come here. It's like, let's learn from our mistakes. Let's grow as people and let's keep pushing forward. And again, if you're drinking wine 4 o'clock with your girlfriends or boy, whatever you're doing, don't expect to get those things out of life if that's the road you're taking as well.
I think that's fair. Just, the average home cost is $416,000 right now. I'd also like to say, I think the American dream is just more followers now. That's the dream. Just get more content, more followers, see if you can become an influencer.
So you can get more money to buy a house.
But that seems to be the way people are going these days to me. It's like that other way is inaccessible, so they're like, I'll go this way and try and become some way of an influencer because it's a side hustle that works. But
there used to be professions that you could go into.
Right,
you could go into nursing or teaching. We're going to do a teaching story in a second. Who would go into teaching? You want to have a parent with their finger in your face all day?
Yeah, well, talking
about that. Or do you want to sit in
that,
front of your camera?
On a related note, a new credit report has found that a majority of young folks, both Gen Zers and millennials, would rather spend money now on life experiences like travel and concerts than save for retirement. So what do you think? Are there certain life experiences that are worth splurging on now? Or do you think they'll regret it later when they don't have as much saved?
I think there's something to be said for that. I think there's something to go, like, again, my thing's traveling, right? So right when I got out of college, I went and backpacked across Europe, like it's super cliche, but that's what I did, and I learned a lot from that.
Right.
And I got a passion for traveling, and then you get to see what other people are like outside of your environment, right? You meet people from all over the world, and I got lucky enough to do other travels later on, and you learn even more. But I think there's something to say, hey, I'm going to take that vacation now. I'm going to be working the rest of my life if that's what I want, a family, a house. It's going to be hard. Maybe take a little time for myself, figure out who I am, what direction I want to go. I don't mind this because I did a little bit of it, but I think the old way, maybe our grandfathers, I would be like, you come out of college and you put your nose to the grindstone and you go get it.
Right? Yeah. I mean, there is something to that. I mean, I go back and forth. We were lucky enough to have a lot of experiences. In my 20s, went everywhere, went all over the world, but I do, I look at my friends that went straight from college to medical school, and, them and their wife have 2 Aston Martins now.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
There's always the other side.
Your 20s, you have the most energy, and you have the least kind of dings on you, where you're not beat up by life yet. I don't know, if you just go through it, you could have a real nice life. Maybe we're doing it backwards. We tell people to blow their 20s off. I don't know about that.
Maybe compromise, maybe in the middle somewhere. Let's take a look at the poll results. Is the American dream dead? Yes, a majority say yes. 55% no, 45% wow. That's interesting. Coming up on DBL, we saw you guys. A kid gets kicked out of class for wearing a "Don't Tread on Me" patch, while an elementary guest speaker gets booted for saying the word gay. What is acceptable in school these days, like Al was talking about? And our very funny interview with Adam Rapon. How did he walk away the winner of Stars on Mars?
Okay, that makes a difference.
7th.
Yeah, that does make a
Because
difference.
first grade is different than 7th grade.
For the backpack.
7th's really
No,
different.
not the backpack, the Batman.
Oh, the Batman. The backpack was 7th.
Okay.
I think Batman was younger elementary.
We're kind of
But, like, do
prepping
we
for the
know
stories,
exactly
and
what
we're
grade?
also
Can we figure that out?
eating these, which is super embarrassing.
Can I see one? What is it? Oh, God.
Taste one.
Okay, what do they taste like Smurfs?
No. What does the Smurf taste like?
Okay, so you guys see what this is. It's supposed to be.
Do you know what my nickname is?
Yes.
So many
Hello?
to get down there.
What
Pro,
shape?
you know what I mean?
Right.
It's sort of a.
It's a Smurf.
No, I
toy.
just don't.
Did anyone else have a problem with Smurfette being the only girl at Smurfland?
It's my nickname. I don't
Did you
care.
think the Smurfs?
one of those.
Did you like
No,
the Smurfs?
I just thought that was weird.
What? Because it was
Has
one of those
anyone not
cartoons. It
think about
wasn't
that and just
funny.
watch the Smurfs?
It wasn't funny, but you know what I heard?
It was more just day-to-day living.
You know what I heard? It was based on a communist idea. So they all live in a village. Papa Hemingway had a red hat, and they all worked together, made gardening, and they all fed each other. It was supposed to be a communist.
Or just maybe a commune. It doesn't have to be communist.
I heard it was actually a pro-communist thing.
My college roommate's dad started it. That's why my nickname is Smurf. 'Cause I
Oh,
went
really?
As a Smurf to a Halloween party before anybody knew what they were.
Really?
Hold up a Smurf.
I'm so sorry.
They don't have as much hair as I do. Good, now I get to eat another one. My nickname is
good?
Smurf.
And I
And
mean,
if you saw my
I think it's
costume, I
really a
was a good
stretch to
Smurf.
call this a Smurf as well. But you
There's
know.
Papa Smurf with
I
the
don't
red
think
hat.
that's very good.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
guess. No worries. Yeah, the Smurfs were. There's a couple. It wasn't like the Thundercats where like
I
you
used
knew
to
what you were
love
getting.
Saturday morning, 8 o'clock,
Oh my
dude.
gosh. It was the Smurfs, and then they tried to remember the snorkels. They tried to sneak
Snorkels
those
were
in.
the
They were underwater Smurfs,
And they had the
they
little
were
thing.
horrible.
Smurfs and then He-Man?
Yes, it was.
The order?
I think that was after school.
Gargamel. Welcome back, folks. What's acceptable in school these days, and who gets to make that decision? Parents? Lawmakers? Teachers? Well, we've got some recent examples of what's not acceptable, and one of them starts right here in Colorado. So this 12-year-old was removed from his 7th grade public classroom over several patches on his backpack. Now, according to his mom, the school took issue with one in particular, the "Don't Tread on Me" patch. She said the school didn't want the flag in the classroom due to its origins with slavery. Now the school is saying there's more to the story. They say the patch in question was part of half a dozen other patches of semi-automatic weapons. The student has removed the semi-automatic patches and returned to class without incident. Meantime, in Georgia, this author was slated to give presentations at elementary schools. It was all over the origins of the Batman comic. Now, as part of his talk, he mentioned that the co-author's son was gay. In response, the principal emailed parents to apologize and asked the speaker to leave out this detail. Later, the author had his other speaking engagements canceled after he refused. So what do we think of these two examples, and who gets to decide what's acceptable or not? One in Colorado, one in Georgia. These are becoming more frequent. Al, you were a school teacher. What do you think about this?
I mean, I look at, well, let's start with the last one first with the Batman example. He was telling us a historical story. It was an interesting story because he had a gay son that adopted a daughter that I believe was then heir to this money, which is a big deal because this is an incredible fortune. It's part of the story, and if you don't mention that, I feel like it's an erasure of history. I don't understand why we can't talk to kids about gay, and when we say talk to, we're just mentioning that that's how they identified. I don't think if they had said that he had a son that went on to get married and they had children, you would assume that those people had sex. You would assume that those people were straight. It has nothing to do with the inheritance. It's just part of the history. So when you take that out, it seems like it's opening a door to pick and choose what we teach kids about things that happened. And I don't have a problem with somebody saying the word gay in front of my kids. You know what, they're about to enter the world. They are a part of our world. And as for the guns on backpacks, it's got to go. Anything, as somebody that's a teacher, anything that is going to be disruptive in class, especially since we had a school shooting, 2 days ago at the University of North Carolina, I think anything resembling a gun could cause post-traumatic or traumatic stress disorder, and it's a no-go for me.
Whew, these are so touchy, and both of them are like, we're really digging here to get to some dirt, you know? Like, for the Batman story, the guy's like talking about co-creating Batman, and he's like, then my co-creator's son had a gay son, and it's like, all right, well, that's fine. Anyone could mention whatever, do whatever you want. For the backpack thing, that kid looked like he was wearing his dad's backpack, you know, and like maybe something happened to his dad, or maybe he's proud of his dad, and he wore it, and they told him to remove the patches, and he removed them, and he went back in school. I don't know why we're talking, how did this story leak if they did what they told them to? If I wore a shirt that had, you know, bad language on it or alcohol beverages, as we were talking, I'd get sent home. Right. And you change your shirt and you come back. I don't know why this is news.
Well, Tori, you have a take on that.
Yeah, I have a take on this. And also, I just want to say it was the first one with the backpack. It's a charter school, but they get public funding. They get federal funding. So I just want to make that clear. I've always said my favorite case in all of the Supreme Court is the Tinker v. Des Moines. And some of you actually know the Tinkers. I know one of our viewers knows the Tinkers. These kids wore armbands to protest the Vietnam War. They were kicked out, and they went all the way up to the Supreme Court saying, yo, that's my First Amendment right, and they won. And the famous line is, students don't shed their constitutional right at the school gates. That kid had every single right to wear his Don't Tread on Me patch, to wear a semi-automatic rifle, because not only are guns allowed to bear arms in this country, he has a First Amendment right to wear that without a government, which is the public school funding, telling him not to.
I mean, if he's the only kid in that school, what you're saying tracks perfectly, but where do your rights end and mine begin?
If it becomes disruptive.
If I am a student that's growing up in a place where people that look like me are being shot on a regular basis, the idea of you wearing something that may trigger me, no pun intended, I think that that's a right I have to protect my mental health as I go through school.
A lot of people say a First Amendment right is more important than your feelings, and what's also important is if it were disruptive, I understand it. If it weren't, he has every single right to wear that First Amendment.
It's the battle cry of the selfish.
We'll see. We'll be right back.
Several verified viewers have reached out to us about this ad they've seen recently on TV.
Senate Bill 1838 would enact harmful credit card routing mandates that would end credit card rewards as we know it.
But is that true? Is Congress considering a bill that would end credit card rewards? Let's verify. Our sources are the text of Senate Bill 1838 and various trade groups lobbying for and against the bill, including the Merchants Payments Coalition and the Electronic Payments Coalition. When you buy something with a credit card at a store, no matter who your bank is, most of the time the transaction is processed by either Visa or MasterCard. They charge the store a fee for that processing. This new bill is titled the Credit Card Competition Act, and the stated aim is to help those stores pay less in fees. To do that, it would require that banks accept at least one processor for their cards other than Visa and MasterCard. Then the stores would have a choice of who they want to process with, creating more competition and potentially lowering costs for the businesses. Many business groups are strongly in favor of the proposal, saying processing costs have skyrocketed in recent years. But the companies that manage transactions are strongly opposed and have funded ads like the one we showed you earlier. They say forcing more processing options could lead to stores using less secure networks. And they say that the lost fees will eventually be passed on to consumers via higher interest rates or cutbacks on rewards. But the bill wouldn't in any way mandate such cutbacks. In fact, rewards are not mentioned, even tangentially, anywhere in the bill. So we can verify, no, Congress is not considering a bill to end credit card rewards. If the bill were to pass, it's unclear how that might eventually affect consumers. With your Verify, I'm Casey Decker.
Welcome back. Adam Rippon was crowned the brightest star in the galaxy after winning Fox's Stars on Mars. And earlier, we spoke to him about surviving on Mars and confronting Lance Armstrong about his trans athlete comments. Check it out. Adam, congratulations!
Wow, thank you you guys so much. It feels so good to be the brightest star in the whole entire universe.
Yes.
All right, we got to get into it. Like celebrities such as Ariel Winter and Lance Armstrong obviously competed against you. So I have to ask, which one of your castmates would you want with you if you actually had to survive on Mars, and why?
First of all, I want you to take a good look at me. You know, let's be honest, if I'm going to Mars, it's over for me. That's the end. I wouldn't survive. If the opportunity to ever go to Mars was a real opportunity, I know the U.S. government isn't looking at me. So I can't even elaborate. I can't even elaborate on my answer because I think we all get it, right? It's sort of like we just get, you feel it. You feel like I'm not going.
If you're not up there, I don't want to be up there.
That's right. I love speaking with you, and I actually want to take it a little deeper here. It seems like you had, no, mostly just Adam, actually. It seems like you had a lot of fun, but things got a little uncomfortable, and I want to just put it out on the table when Lance Armstrong shared his divisive views on trans athletes. And in the episode, we don't get to see you talk to Lance about the topic, which you did. Do you wish, Adam, your conversation had made that show? What did you and Lance talk about, if you're comfortable sharing?
Well, one, I think the biggest thing was that, you know, we're filming a show where we pretend that we're on Mars. So I think that, you know, the whole context of the show is like, let's all have fun. Mm-hmm. I think the conversation of trans athletes in sports is a good conversation and an important conversation that we should have. Do I think Lance Armstrong, famous cheater, worrying about an unfair advantage in sports, is the craziest person to talk about this? Yes, I do think that, and I don't think that that's a hot take. Yeah. I think that, you know, I believe that, you know, if you want all of this research and you want more information on what it's like to have trans athletes involved in sports, trans athletes need to be accepted in the sports community so that you can get that research. And, you know, I know what sports has brought to me and all of the tools that it's brought into my life. And I feel like everybody should be afforded that opportunity.
Wow. That's a beautiful take. Yeah.
But also, you know, like being a trans athlete and specifically being a trans woman in sports, it's not as simple as somebody going, I'm a woman, and they compete in the women's field. It's a very long, drawn out, detailed process, years long, before someone is even maybe given the opportunity to compete. So it's not as simple or as nuanced. And this was the kind of conversation that I was having with Lance. You know, in the show, it lasts maybe 2 or 3 minutes, but in reality, it's, you know, it took a little bit, close to an hour, you know, everybody kind of going back and forth. So it's not that nuanced.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of detail into it.
You're right. The IOC is very strict about those rules and regulations. Okay, so I got to switch gears. We have about 30 seconds left. We've got a fun question for you. If you were really sent to Mars and could only take 3 things with you, what would you take?
I would take my phone. Obviously, I'm hoping there's signal. I would take moisturizer. I do think it's dry. And I would take McDonald's because that would be my last meal because you know I'm about to die if I'm going to Mars.
Yes! Mickey D's, baby.
Adam, it was so much fun having you on DBL today. Congrats on your Stars on Mars win. So great to see you. We'll be right back.
Mazel tov, Adam.
Hurricanes can bring significant rainfall and cause damaging storm surges, which floods low-lying communities. While most people have traditional renters or homeowners insurance, some may find they might not have coverage to rebuild after a flood. So, let's verify. Do homeowners and renters insurance policies typically cover flood damage from hurricanes? Our sources are the Florida Division of Emergency Management, the Insurance Information Institute, Federal Emergency Management Agency, and insurance companies Allstate and Amica. Homeowners insurance is a way to repair or rebuild your home after something bad happens. Homeowners insurance, along with renters, also helps cover the cost to replace your belongings. Typically, when you buy a policy, the insurance companies will give you a detailed list of events that they cover, or tell you you're covered for all events except those they specifically exclude. All of our sources say standard homeowners and renters policies typically exclude coverage for flooding. Allstate says this includes flooding brought on by or as a result of a hurricane. So, no, homeowners and renters insurance policies do not typically cover flood damage from hurricanes. Instead, you can purchase separate flood insurance from a private company or a policy that's backed by FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program. These policies usually require you to purchase them at least 30 days before they take effect. If you didn't buy coverage ahead of time, FEMA also offers some assistance to people who live in areas that receive a presidential disaster declaration. However, Florida's emergency management warns the average payout to Florida residents from FEMA is usually only about $5,000, which may not be enough for repairs. This compares to claims filed by people with separate flood insurance who receive an average of $29,000. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis. You already know hurricanes are rated on a scale from 1 to 5 based on their wind speed. But have you heard about the Waffle House Index to gauge the severity of a storm? Waffle House is known for serving breakfast around the clock, even during serious weather conditions, so locals say it's a big deal when one decides to close. A former director of the Federal Emergency Management Agency once said he looked at whether a Waffle House is open to get an initial sense of a community's needs in an emergency. Some people have claimed this is part of FEMA's official disaster policy. So, let's verify. Our sources are Waffle House and FEMA. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans, killing nearly 1,400 people. Many businesses, including Waffle House, were forced to close for an extended period of time. After the storm, the restaurant chain developed a disaster plan. They invested in generators and mobile command centers to help their locations stay open or quickly reopen after a storm, and they're often one of the last places to close before a hurricane hits. A now deleted FEMA blog post from 2011 says the agency used Waffle House as an unofficial measure of a disaster. Then FEMA Director Craig Fugit was quoted in a Waffle House blog saying, "If you get there and the Waffle House is closed, that's really bad." But FEMA tells Verify when a disaster strikes, it uses its own metrics to gauge the needs of a community, including access to medicine, food, and communications, not Waffle House. So, no, the Waffle House Index is not an official FEMA policy. With your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Welcome back. Staying active can be difficult as we age, but we got some tips to help you keep moving. So it's time for some joint and muscle support brought to you by Omega XL. First, avoid comparisons. Don't try to compete with your 20-year-old self. Set real goals for where you are now. Second, listen to your body. When you have pain, you must deal with it. Treat it and rest. Lastly, prioritize sleep. Sleep deprivation, can impair your body's functioning. Omega XL has improved the lives of millions of consumers, supported by 30 years of clinical research. Omega XL's powerful and proven benefits have transformed the lives of athletes, celebrities, and dedicated daily users. So go ahead and call 1-800-725-2612 or visit omegaxl.com for more information.
Good combo today.
Huh?
Yeah.
Whoo, heated.
Wound up.
Wound
Start
up.
talking about the Constitution.
I love it, baby. I love it. See you tomorrow.